It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you know what that means. Yes, it is that time of the week where we must once again meander down the endless pit of oblivion that is my Planet Coaster series Adventure Woods, in which we construct a theme park in Planet Coaster that is called Adventure Woods. And that's my intro there. And we have placed a flat ride. Yes, this is going to be like the centerpiece of the theme park. I was always kind of toying with what to have as the focal point of Adventure Woods. So for reference, Mirror Lake, that was kind of the centerpiece of Mirror Lake was the promenade on the lake. But I mean, that was like my first series. And I think I was a bit more of an amateur player at that point. So I don't really hold Mirror Lake in that high of a regard. But then I made Crimson Tower. The centerpiece of that park was very clearly the tower, the Crimson Tower, modeled after the Blackpool Tower. Very happy with that tower. Then I made Neptune Park, which was basically everything the Crimson Tower wanted to be. There was the big blue tower, right? I changed it from red to blue. And that was really great as well. And then I made Velocity Lake. And I guess that park didn't really have a focal point as such, but it was constructed on a few different islands, and there was a big island in the middle that had an Intamin Megalite, and then there was another island that had there were a few sort of different focal points, and the whole park was sort of bordered by this big white hypercoaster. So for this park, I kind of wanted a nice focal point, but I also wanted to respect the tranquility of the forest. For example, Alton Towers, which I don't think I've ever mentioned in a Planet Coaster video ever, they've got a rule that they can't build above the tree line. So kind of their park is kind of really well integrated into the forest, and the central point or the central focus of that theme park is the actual Alton Towers mansion itself, like the big stately home. So with this park, I kind of wanted to achieve similar vibes, really. I wanted to respect the trees and keep guests immersed in this idea that they're going through this big forest of adventure, but there are just roller coasters here as well. And so but at the same time, I wanted a nice focal point, something to stick on the poster, stick on the leaflets, feature in the TV adverts, etc. And I thought, well, we've got this river running through the center of the park. How about some sort of Ferris wheel that overlooks the river, much like the London Eye? And so that's what I did. I built that big white Ferris wheel, and it's big white Ferris wheel, much like the London Eye. So maybe that was the subconscious muse when constructing that. So that's what I built there. I mean, that's not what I built here. I spent so long rambling along that big tangent about Ferris wheels that I completely failed to address the construction of any aspect of this ride here. But I really like this ride. I cannot recall what it's called, but I've been on one in real life, so it definitely exists. But I really like this particular flat ride because it's got a really small footprint. So it's really easy to integrate into small little corners, which is where I've put it, this little junction here. Because that's one of the issues with flat rides in Planet Coasters, that some of them have absolutely ludicrously large footprints, and it's so hard to put them anywhere, really. I mean, the one that really stands out, just now, I'm just look at the ceiling, and I think about flat rides that are a pain in the bum to place, and I think one of the worst is Gears of Fear. I think it is. Basically, it's the Ripsaw, but it's themed to be steampunk, and I swear that the footprint of that ride is so ridiculously big. I think I've toyed with placing it in all of my parks at some point whilst building them, and the footprint is just so massive, and that goes for a lot of flat rides as well. Just that's one of the most egregious examples, if not the most egregious example. And so yeah, I kind of end up using the same flat rides over and over because they have reasonable footprints. So I definitely use this umbrella circular roundabout thing. I don't know what it's called. That's the best I've got. For Freeflyer, maybe? I think that might be what it's called. I think it's called the Freeflyer, actually. Anyway, might be wrong. Let's move on. I use this in pretty much all my parks because it's got a reasonable footprint. The footprint of this ride is not that much bigger than the ride itself, and that makes it great for filling in little odd gaps here and there. Speaking of filling in little odd gaps here and there, I've got this path. So my idea was that there'd be a path running either side of the river, which you can kind of see to the right of the screen there. It's probably gone now. And I kind of didn't want it just be a path, and I wanted to give guests a reason to walk down that path, really. So we've got these two flat rides here now, and I thought I'd sort of break up the monotony of just a gravel path along the riverfront by adding a couple of little shops. So one of these is a Looney Balloons, the other is a Hats Fantastic, and I'm pretty sure Hats Fantastic is one of those one of those not overkill, but overpowered shops where guests just flood to it, basically. I've seen a couple of Reddit posts where people just place a Hats Fantastic in their park, and guests just flood towards them to the point where it's become a meme. Like, if you want to just beat a Planet Coaster scenario, like in career mode, which I've still never played, 6 years after the game released, just place a Hats Fantastic and then just leave the game for 3 years. And then the scenario will just be beaten, because guests, it seems, cannot get enough of Hats Fantastic. So why not, build one in this park? Because I don't think I've ever built... I think I might have built one in, not Crimson Tower, Mirror Lake, but I do not recall doing so. If I did... maybe I put one in Crimson Tower, actually, come to think of it, because I built a big shopping district. Like, I just built basically a giant big square building and placed every conceivable shop inside of it, because that's how I used to play Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Like, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, the shops were not as easy to integrate into, generic buildings as they are in Planet Coaster, because in Planet Coaster, the shops are just these, you can see it there, that blue cube structure, so you can easily build a building around it. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, every single shop was like heavily themed. It was like a weird custom building. Like the balloon shop, for example, was shaped like big, helium canisters with loads of balloons coming off the top. And so you couldn't really graciously integrate that into a building. Now, with a DLC, I think it might be the Wild expansion. I shouldn't say DLC, should I? Because this was before the days of DLC. This was like 2003 or 4. Like, to buy DLC, I'm doing the air quotes thing, you had to buy a separate disc with all the extra content on it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it came with the Wild expansion pack. You could get basically the custom shop. I don't know if that was the name, but it was like custom shop or something like that, where it was just a counter. Like, that was it. Just a till and a bench, and it was even better, really, than the Planet Coaster shops. And that was like a way you could integrate. So I guess that's where these shops, the concept for the Planet Coaster shops came from. But yeah, for the most part, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 didn't have that, basically. And I spent most of my career, probably a better word out there, but that's what I'm going with, but in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, basically building a load of shops right at the entrance of a park. They're all just loose, and just surround them with a building and to make it look a bit more like a shopping mall, basically, like a shopping centre, and called it a day. When I first started playing Planet Coaster, I was still sort of in a similar mindset, really. So I just built a big, nice-looking building. I think it looked pretty reasonably nice in Crimson Tower. And then I just slapped a load of blank shops without any theming whatsoever inside the building. And I think, it served its purpose well. But I like to, these days, go a bit above and beyond. So I guess all that started with Neptune Park. I built Neptune Park to this day remains one of my favourite entrance buildings to a park, but I never bothered actually completing the interior. So... whatever. But now, since Velocity Lake, I've been trying to make shops that look realistic, and I think this how did I even get to this topic? But whatever. Looney Balloons and Hats Fantastic are now done. Oh yes, I think I mentioned that yes, that was it. I wasn't sure if I'd built a Hats Fantastic or Looney Balloons in previous parks, and that's because now I think about it, I might well have done so. That was a weird sort of tone to say that. I might well have done so, but that was just because I built a big, hollow, blank building and just placed every single conceivable shop I could inside of it. And that's my story. That's my amazing, riveting story. I hope you've all grown as people listening to that. I feel like it took so long. I feel like I was a younger person when I started that tangent. But let us continue on. And I say that even though I did strongly consider ending the episode there, because I feel like we've achieved a lot, right? We placed I spoke too soon. After placing the queue line and all that of this Ferris wheel, I strongly considered ending the episode there, because I feel like we've done a lot, right? We've built a couple of shops, as I mentioned in that massive story I was telling. We've placed a Hats Fantastic and a Looney Balloons. We've also placed the Freeflyer ride. I've got no idea if that's even the name, but we're going with it because I ain't pausing my commentary and Googling stuff. Usually, I just minimize Sony Vegas and open Google Chrome and start Googling things. I feel like that's not professional. That ain't professional. That's the first professional thing I've said in this commentary, I guess. But yeah, I feel like I can't be bothered. That's the long and short of things. Okay, I'm sorry, sue me. That's just the way it be. But yeah, anyway, I've placed the Ferris wheel, I placed the Freeflyer, I placed a couple of shops, and now I'm just sort of finishing things off with this little fence. I thought that would be a nice way to end this episode. But then, where are we now? We're only like 10 minutes in. It's like not that much. I feel like it's not long enough. So we're going to add, it's going to be a bit of an admin episode. I feel like the next 2 things could have been their own episode, but we're going to just squish it into this one. So the first thing I'm doing is building this little steam train here just to sort of get guests from the front and back of the theme park. And then we're going to build I thought it was going to come there. But anyway, we're going to build a children's theme park. Children's theme park. I'm rushing, guys. we're going to build a children's play area. So like slides, swings, seesaws, little tires you can walk along, etc. We're going to build it in this space here. And now I've said that, I'm now going to quickly go back to the Ferris wheel. Just address that very quickly. That's going to be like a intermittently worked on thing in this theme park. Like I built it and I was like, that looks nice on the old skyline, etc. Now I've established where that's going to go, I'll go and work on something else. And then I'll work on something else and be like, okay, that's all done. I should probably do something to the Ferris wheel, right? To somewhat naturally integrate it into the park. So I'll build like a bit of path like I did earlier in this episode. And then my mind just wanders off to do something else. And in this case, it was building a children's play area. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, obviously, all of this is completely non-functional. Like this is just here for decorative purposes, but I feel like it adds a bit to the old, charm of the theme park. And, while Planet Coaster, things can be functional, like guests will go on roller coasters and stuff. Ultimately, I see it like a model railway. Like, just make it look nice. There's things moving, like roller coaster trains are churning, and churning's not a great word, but like roller coaster trains are like traveling along their tracks. Guests are wandering. It doesn't matter if there's like the odd bit that's clearly not being interacted with, because I just like having an overall nice looking thing. Like to me, Planet Coaster is almost like a bit of a toy, really. Just build something nice, and that's good enough for me. Enter, and I hope it's good enough for you. Enter this little play area here. Now, it's pretty similar to the play area. I said that really weird. To the play area I built in Neptune Park. I don't think Velocity Lake had a play area at all, because I was very hell-bent on making everything in Velocity Lake very, very functional. But now I'm like, let's just chill. Probably not going to upload this series to the public, but I probably will. Whatever. Let's just make something that looks nice, really. And most theme parks, at least I've been to, have some sort of place where, young little Johnny and little Timmy can run around on the swings and the seesaws, etc. And that's what we're doing here. And I did this for Neptune Park. I built a very similar play area. And actually, I'm using many of the same building techniques to build the structure. I'm pretty sure I again based this theme park, this play park or adventure playground, whatever you want to call it, on the playground that was in Neptune Park itself. Like, I think I've improved as a player since then, because that was built in like 2018. Wow, so long ago. How time flies. And I think I like to think at least that I've improved as a player since then. I can make it slightly better looking. If you would like to compare this build and last build, then you should just go on YouTube and search up Matt Lowne Neptune Park Adventure Playground, or whatever it was I called that video, to give me more ad revenue. That's what this is about, really. I don't care about you guys. I don't care about Planet Coaster. I hate Planet Coaster. And I hate Kerbal Space Program. And I don't care about space news. All I care about is money. That sweet green right there. What is Starship even? Like, I didn't even write that script. Some guy writes that script. Is it like is it NASA that made Starship? Oh, no, actually, no. I'm joking. Of course it was. I know it was United Launch Alliance, guys. I'm messing with you. Anyway, that horrible tangent aside, I sort of gave up building roofs for the playground here. Instead, I went for the thatched roofs here, which was, I think I used the exact same roofing for the play area in Neptune Park. But hey, what can I say? I'm a creative genius. How could I possibly improve upon myself? Anyway, what is there to talk about, really? I've got this like little tunnel that the little children can crawl through, I guess. I'm just building out art shapes, and then I've kind of made these sort of like flanges like along the course of the tunnel. Now I'm going to build the slide entrance. I feel like none of this really needed saying. You can kind of get this from watching the footage. I guess what I haven't talked about recently is what's happening in Matt's life TM. Well, guys, it's Friday night for me. What a way to spend a Friday night, right? Just sitting in my room, drinking my nice Got my nice Pepsi Max. I'm going to have a little sip of my Pepsi Max, actually. In fact, this was an excuse to have a sip of Pepsi Max because I'm very warm and very tired. So I'm going to just have a little. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's been a long old day. I've been at work all day. Obviously, my work hours, I start at 8 o'clock and finish at 5:30. But I was caught doing a few admin tasks, so I left work at like 5:45. And by that point, it was a storm outside. Like, it was very, very, very windy, very, very rainy. And I cycled to work, and so I had to cycle home. And I was against the wind the whole time. And if you live in the UK, you know our cycle lanes are terrible. And I say cycle lanes in the loosest sense of the word, because oftentimes they just terminate. And for me, they terminate in the middle of a 40-mile-an-hour road. I'm expected to just merge into fast-moving traffic. And I was merging into fast-moving traffic in very, very, very torrential rain with I was wearing like goggles just so I could see in the rain, and they were steaming up. And there was wind blowing against it. Like, I was really having to pedal as hard. It was like I was going uphill, but I was going downhill, merging on. It's terrible. Don't live in the UK if you like cycling. It sucks. So yeah, there was that, and now I'm just tired. Basically, I got home and literally I was wearing my gloves so I could grip the handlebars in the rain. I just clenched my fists, and water just poured from my gloves onto the floor. And I took my shoe off, and I had to tip it upside down over the sink so water could just fall out of it. I was pedaling, and I could just feel water sloshing back and forth. So I've had my shower now. I'm in my nice snuggly pajamas. But as you might have heard just then, that slip up. I'm a little bit tired. Matt's ready for bed, and it's not even 9 p.m. yet, and I haven't eaten my dinner yet. So I'm kind of coasting on this caffeine. Either I'm super tired, or I'm on a massive caffeine high right now and I'm about to crash. Either way, what am I doing on the screen? I'm going to look at the footage, and I'm still building the play area, actually, so there isn't really much to say about that. I'm building a slide here, though. You might have seen me build the other slide, and I'll probably continue working on that slide because I can see in the background it has no supports holding it. It is a magic levitating slide, which, while very cool, ain't very realistic. And I am trying to build this park to be, pretty realistic. I think there's one roller coaster that I think possibly voids the whole trying to build a realistic park, but I think the roller coaster itself is possible to build. It just doesn't really represent any real life roller coaster, I guess. I guess it kind of does. It's an Intamin launched coaster, but it's probably a little bit bigger than the kind of coaster that I was trying to build, I think. I mean, you guys are going to be the judge of that. It's a long way off. I've still got a lot of things to build before that episode, so I'm banking on you guys forgetting this entire tangent so I can say the exact same thing when the time comes, because I kind of suck at trying to think of things to say in Planet Coaster videos. And it's going to be a fun old trip next episode, because next episode I'm doing my least favorite thing in the whole wide world when it comes to building stuff in video games. And that is, yes, the parking lot, the road infrastructure, etc., etc. And I'm kind of a bit torn. The process of building the car park and the roads leading up to it was quite an extensive task, and I don't really know how to divvy it up. Do I just do it in one massive hour-long episode, or do I split it? Do the roads in one 20-minute episode, then the parking lot in another 20-minute episode? I know I said at the beginning of the series I'd aim for an hour long as the standard, but that's assuming I'm doing something interesting, like building a roller coaster, building a station, building a building that's fun, etc. But when I'm building a parking lot and I'm building a road, I'm just laying down tarmac for an hour and just painting lines. And is that really something that people want to see for an hour? So I thought maybe it might be more digestible to break it up into kind of nicer segments. After the parking lot is built, I am going to be building a big, good B&M flying coaster. And so that should be a nicer episode to make an hour long. I don't actually know how long the footage is and how long that episode would hypothetically be. But if the construction of that coaster does end up taking up an hour in terms of, once it's sped up and edited and ready for me to commentate over, if that's an hour, I feel like I would be happy to do that. That'd be more digestible, more interesting for you guys, because there's more happening on screen, more things are changing. But when it's just building roads and parking lots, is it though? Is it really that fun? I feel like it probably isn't. And speaking of, is it really fun? Is it really though? How is this video? We're now 20 minutes in, and it feels like it's been 55 and a half exactly to the second. But yeah, I feel like this episode has been a bit of an admin episode, with no real focus, I guess. I built the Freeflyer, I built the Ferris wheel, I've built this little adventure playground, I've built the Looney Balloons / Hats Fantastic building, and yeah, I think the reason I guess one of the reasons I like to have a focal point to an episode is because I don't know what to put on the thumbnail otherwise. So what am I going to do for the thumbnail of this video? I feel like I could put the adventure playground in the thumbnail, but as you can see, the background to the adventure playground, I'm now talking quite fast before it disappears off screen, like now, the background is quite plain. So I don't know if that would really be an eye-catchy thumbnail. But at the same time, I feel like it's the best structure of this video, and I feel like I haven't really checked, but I feel like it eats up the most screen time in terms of, what I'm doing when building this park. I feel like most of this episode has been building. I'm going to say that slower. Most of this episode has been me building this playground. Thank you. We got there in the end. I'm just aware it's very close to dinner time for me, guys, and I've still got to make dinner. I'm going to cook. It's Friday night for me. I'm making a curry night. So, yeah. I think my girlfriend Beth is currently playing Legend of Zelda downstairs, and she gets hungry about 7 p.m. and it's now nearly 9 p.m. and here I am editing Planet Coaster. So everyone, give your thoughts and prayers to Beth. Hopefully she completes that shrine in Breath of the Wild. Hello Beth, we're probably watching this together. Hopefully, I don't know. But we usually proof watch things together on the sofa. So hello Beth, and yeah, Breath of the Wild sucks, by the way, guys. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. It's very overrated. It doesn't suck. It's a really good game. But at the same time, everyone's getting super excited for Breath of the Wild 2. The people are just and I'm just I just do not care at all. Because I'm sorry, the weapon durability system in Breath of the Wild is not fun. It is just not fun. If you think it's fun, you are objectively incorrect, because my opinion is the one that matters. And for me, it just absolutely sucks. I'll have a weapon, I'll open a treasure chest and it'd be a cool weapon. And instead of being oh, that's a cool weapon, I'm oh, cool. A weapon I'm too scared to use because it's going to break after 5 uses. And then I kind of changed my mindset thinking you know what? I'm going to use the weapons because I want to actually make the most of it. And then they do break after 5 uses. And then it just sucked. It was terrible. I get what they were trying to do, make players use different weapons. But I feel like being forced into doing something is not a mark of good game design. And that's the negative thought I'm ending this video on, apparently. Whoosh, there's my end screen. 2 video suggestions there. If you want to subscribe, then you can do so. And then if you want to join my Patreon or check out either the videos on screen, you can click those links accordingly. And yeah, that's the end of this sort of non-specific episode. Not a lot was done, but a lot was done, but no real focal point, and that's